We say at the top of every episode that we interview champions and trailblazers. And while our show has a strong focus on sports, JB and I have always known that to learn to truly win, we had to look beyond athletics. Our guest today is a champion in her field, a trailblazer in her field, and one of the most influential leaders in America. And I guarantee you will learn something from listening to her today. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Win, a show where we ask questions to uncover and discover championship traits for succeeding in sports, work, and life. Win is part of Grit, a pivotalmomentsmedia.com channel focused on breaking the stigma surrounding mental fitness in sports. Visit pivotalmomentsmedia.com for more episodes, content, and education on how we can tackle that challenge together. Our guest today, Johnese Spisso, is one of the top clinical leaders and one of the top most influential women leaders in America. Her life has been dedicated to service for others, and her journey has taken her from starting as a registered nurse to becoming the current president of UCLA Health, the CEO of UCLA Hospital Systems, and the associate vice chancellor of UCLA Health Sciences. In short, everybody, listen up. Johnese is about to gift us with just over 45 minutes of her knowledge, and we're all going to be better off for it. Johnese, welcome to Win. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for me to be here.
So, Johnese, we're going to dive right into it. You're one of the top professionals in the medical services industry, period. How did you get started? Was becoming a hospital president always the goal? Is it something you fell into? Just walk us through this journey, because it is amazing what you've accomplished in your life.
Well, thank you. And I get asked that question so many times, and especially when I'm mentoring young leaders. I think sometimes people think there's just a straightforward path to get, to where you are. And it actually isn't. It's always a combination of really good experiences and many times being in the right place in the right time. So almost 40 years ago now, I started my career as a registered nurse in critical care at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. I had a great opportunity as a new graduate nurse to work in one of the most exciting and innovative fields at that time at the University of Pittsburgh. We were starting to do a lot of new programs like liver transplantation, things that were really cutting edge. So I really learned very quickly there and had so many good role models in the nursing profession that helped really shape my fundamental understanding of patient care. And in the field of healthcare, patient care is really our core business, and caring for not only the patient and the family. And so I think my background as a nurse and understanding not only the physical care and disease processes with patients, but also that psychosocial and emotional support that families need, particularly in critical care, really was a fundamental experience. From there, I moved to California. I wanted to pursue a master's degree, and I started working at the University of California, Davis Medical Center. I started out as the charge nurse in a surgical critical care unit, and I was at UC Davis for about 12 years, and I moved up progressively in that organization from a charge nurse to a nurse manager to then an assistant director of nursing. And I will say in all of that career progression, I was always approached about applying for that next promotion. And I think it's because I really focused on doing the best job I could in every job that I have. And I can honestly say that throughout my career, every job that I was in, I felt like, wow, I could finish my career in this job. I enjoyed it. I was always learning. And I had the just great privilege of being surrounded by so many mentors that were always teaching. And in working in teaching hospitals, there's always that continuous environment for learning, which I think is so rewarding. So after 12 years at UC Davis, I left for Seattle. I got married and my husband lived in Seattle, and I was hired by the University of Washington Harborview Medical Center as the chief nursing officer. So for me in my career as a registered nurse, I thought, this is it. I'm really at the top of my position. My goal, had been at some point eventually to continue to be a nursing leader, and being the chief nursing officer at a very large academic teaching hospital was really amazing. So then I spent 22 years at UW Medicine, and that's where I really will say I had so many amazing opportunities for my career. I after being the chief nursing officer for about 5 years, I was then promoted to the chief operating officer. Again, there was an opportunity. And in each of these opportunities, I'll say there was always a national search done. So I wasn't just promoted because I was an inside candidate. There were lots of inside candidates and many national candidates. But I was really only interested in the job if I truly was the best person, because throughout my career, I've always learned from people who were smarter than me and had more experience than me. So I was always willing to work for other people as well. So then after serving as the chief operating officer for 5 years, I then, there was an opportunity to serve as the CEO of a medical center. So I applied for that and was selected. And then after doing that for 2 years, there was a whole reorganization in the University of Washington and a decision to put all of the hospitals and clinics under one leader. And so I was asked to apply for that, again, a national search, and fortunately I was selected. And I did that position for 8 years before I moved here to UCLA. So then now I've been at UCLA for almost 6 years. I can't believe it. The time has gone so fast. And in this role, as you mentioned, President of UCLA Health, CEO of the hospital and clinic system, and Associate Vice Chancellor, it's an amazing opportunity for me to work in a county of 10 million people with some of the largest health disparities in the country. And here at UCLA Health, we're about a $5 billion organization. We have 4 large hospitals, academic teaching hospitals. We have a network of over 200 primary and specialty care clinics in our community. And we have a large faculty practice group of UCLA physicians that work in our health system, about 35,000 employees. And we're located on the campus of UCLA. So the number one public institution in the country is the UCLA campus. And then we were fortunate this past year as UCLA Health on the US News and World Report rankings to be the number one health system in Los Angeles, number one in the state of California, and top 3 in the nation on that list of only 20 that make the honor roll. And that I really have to thank our staff for. That is by the hard work and dedication that our staff do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to provide excellent patient care to everyone who comes through our doors. Our mission is to really heal humankind one patient at a time by improving health, alleviating their suffering, and delivering acts of kindness. And for that, I'm just so grateful every day to work with such amazing staff and colleagues who really make a difference in patients' lives.
Wow. Lee, I'll let you caveat. That was so good.
That was a 40-year journey.
I took a half page of notes already.
Yeah, I did too.
Oh my God. Johnese,
right here, my notebook.
Yeah, I was like writing like crazy. It's amazing. Johnese, couple things that thank you for being with us on there, and a couple things that I wrote that highlight to me. You talked about those experiences. And I think a lot of times when people are climbing the ladder, we have a lot of young coaches, a lot of up and coming professionals on this podcast that listen to our podcast. Right. And they're like, how can I climb the ladder? How can I climb the ladder? And as you were climbing it, you enjoyed all of those experiences along the way. I'll tell you, even from my military journey, I didn't always enjoy those experiences because I was trying to get to the next level. So I think that's so important what you said. Thank you for that. And you said you enjoyed where you were at right there. And if that was it, you would have enjoyed it. And when you were given the opportunity, you took it. I think those are amazing things. And Lee, I'll just tell you, I like how she humbly said people smarter than her, because I know for a fact there's no one smarter than her. So,
but it's funny, JB, as I know someone else who says that a lot too, that I have reverence for, and before you jump in your next question, JB, I want to say, Johnese, first off, I love that you said your mission in that little segment there. Mm-hmm. Not enough leaders do that. This is what we, by the way, it wasn't I, this is what we stand for. It was clear, it was concise, it's consumable. I love that you did that too. For the people listening, as JB just said, this is a human being that has taken a road to a professional journey and level, right? The parallels here to professional sport and what you have accomplished, Johnese, are extremely similar. I know that from my own experience, and I just know that from where you're at. And I think it's important to note, listen to what she says, because she's taken the steps. The first thing, JB, you alluded to this. Sounds like you had some present moment awareness along the journey, which is a gift. I can't tell you how many athletes, well, when I get to the next level, when I get to the next level, when I get to the next level, man, enjoy the level you're at.
Yeah.
Don't forget to do that. Sorry, I had to.
No, that's so important. And, you know, again, I don't know where that pressure is coming from. Is it coming from society?
Right.
Is it coming from within? Is it coming from, you know, our educational institutions? But I see so many young, bright, talented people come out, and after 1 year, they want to know where their promotion is. And if they're not getting promoted, they feel like they're doing something wrong. And what I will say is, in each, you know, I feel like I've climbed every rung of that ladder, but in each rung of that ladder, there were important learnings, and you really have to do it long enough to feel you master that, right? I mean, you're gaining knowledge around everything you're doing. Take that pressure off yourself. And I will say, you know, in that, if you are really enjoying your job, you can take time to take opportunities, volunteer to do different projects. What I always tell people is, if you're doing a good job, good leaders will notice, right? When I came into UCLA, so after being at UW Medicine for 22 years, I knew everybody in that system, right? I'd been there long enough. So when I needed to have projects done or thought about people applying for roles, that Rolodex was in my head. When I came here, I didn't know anyone. And what I did quickly in the first year I was here is really just sat back and assessed. I watched who was doing things, who was getting things done. Those weren't necessarily the people asking to come in and meet with me. I was observing what was happening in the organization. And that's where I looked to say, here's my next level of leaders, my next level of talent coming up. So I always tell people, focus on doing that best job you can, and you will get noticed.
You know who did the same thing as you? And JB, I promise you I'll stop talking. I'm excited. Mark Cuban, when he took over the Dallas Mavericks, sat a whole season and just watched. Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to equate that to that, because it's the same thing. You know, people rush into, let me show you how a leader I am. Sit back and watch. You need that team surrounding you before you can lead anyone anyway, right?
Yes. So, and that's funny. I was just at a few weeks ago, the Lakers Mavericks game, and I saw him sitting there watching the game.
Yeah, that's what he does. He loves that team, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
When he's not yelling at the refs, but other than that, it's good.
He did get a little animated.
Yeah, no, that's so good. You know, Johnese has talked about, you know, when you're a thoughtful leader, you're great in observation. And I think sometimes leaders need to, you know, be observant of things. And, you know, we talk about the importance of having not only a high IQ, but also equally high or not higher EQ, emotional quotient. And I always felt that you have obviously you have a high IQ, but your EQ is what separates you. And, you know, there's been a lot of books written about it, Grit, Angela Duckworth's book, and several others that talk about EQ. And can you talk about the importance of that in your life, personally and professionally, and why, you know, young leaders, young coaches, they should use that into their daily routine of becoming successful?
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more on that emotional intelligence piece. So particularly in healthcare, in sports, in so many industries, I think that having skills around that are really key to your success. We're dealing with people, we're dealing with emotions, we're dealing with very high stress situations. And good leaders have to have that ability to allow people to decompress, to really steer the ship and reduce stress for everyone. And, you know, for us over the past 2 years in healthcare, that's certainly been tested as we were confronting the whole COVID-19 pandemic, and really saying, how do we keep everything moving forward, keeping our patients safe, keeping our staff safe, and really listening to the stresses that people were having. I think one of the good things that's happening now, and I see this particularly with our youth, is we're really taking the stigma out of mental health issues, right? And here at UCLA Health, we operate a very large inpatient psychiatric hospital. We have very large programs, many outpatient mental health clinics. We're really a center of excellence for that. And I think we've done a lot of work to take that stigma away, to talk about it, to start mental health clinics for our staff, for our medical students and things, so that people know, hey, this is accepted. This is a high stress job. We want to give you the tools and technology to assist you. We have a depression grand challenge that we're doing at UCLA. We have an app on everyone's phone. They can start telling us about, mild symptoms of anxiety. And I think as we go forward, when we look at the impact of social media that it's having on our youth, on our athletes and things, the ability to really balance that from a mental health standpoint is key. Additionally, here in healthcare, we see high stress every day. Every day people come into us and their lives have been turned upside down. We're caring for the patient, but that second trauma is on their family as well. So we have to have our staff resilient enough so that they can not only care for people in high stress situations, deliver that care to save their life, but also be there for the family. And that takes a lot of resilience building.
That's a phenomenal answer. I'm glad you bring up the topic of mental health and mental fitness, because that is what our channel is all about. In fact, JB and I often refer to it as mental fitness because we know everybody understands what physical fitness is. There's no stigma surrounding physical fitness.
Yes.
So when we say mental fitness, it's about, what are the reps you have to put in a day to keep your mind safe? And why is there such a stigma surrounding that? And even it's funny because I still feel it too. I feel like I've opened up to that world a lot, but you say, well, there's an app and there's a small voice in my brain that goes, oh, well, who was going to use that? And the thing is, that's the wrong message, right?
Yeah.
And I have to push that out. Johnese, this next question I have, it wasn't on what I sent you. So please feel free to decline it if you want. But I want to talk to you about being a female leader. I have been surrounded my whole life by strong women. My mother is incredibly strong. My wife is incredibly strong. And I was actually quite ignorant to the plight of women in America and the world and in leadership positions until I was in college. I didn't really see it till then. I would never in a million years claim to understand it in any way. I'm a man. I've been a man obviously since I was born. But my question for you is, did you deal with imposter syndrome climbing these ranks? Did you find becoming a leader was harder? What is your advice to young women that want to have a seat at the table, that want to be leaders? This could be in sport or beyond.
Yes.
You understand what I'm asking?
I totally do.
Yeah.
And so lots of things around that. And for me at UCLA Health, I'm the first female leader in the history. So coming in, to me, it felt like I have a big responsibility, to succeed and to do well so that I can, really show that women can do this job and we can do a great job. Coming up through my career, I'll say the first thing that I did is I chose the right organizations to work for. I was fortunate. And a lot of times, I didn't know that young in my career, but I worked in organizations that supported women in leadership. And I was coming up through the nursing ranks. Nursing is a profession that is predominantly women. I was surrounded by a lot of great women role model leaders. So I had the confidence. I could see women leading nursing in organizations and feel like, wow, this is something that we can do. I will say at my time at the University of Washington, I felt the organization had a big focus on hiring the best person, but also bringing in, making sure that we were opening our eyes and looking at that lens of diversity as well. And it was an organization that I felt supported women in leadership. And when I was in the leadership role there and filling leadership positions in the health system, many times those positions were filled with women because they were the best leaders at the table. It wasn't just my decision, it was a search committee's decision. And so I think having those inclusive tools, a search process where you are really taking a look at everyone. And I felt that way coming into UCLA Health as well. The first few days I was here, staff throughout the organization were coming up to me and just being so inspired because I was the first woman leader of the hospital system. And since then, I've had the opportunity, as I've looked at filling positions and we looked at how we do our search committees, of really increasing not only women, but diversity in our organization, and it's made our organization stronger.
And thank you for answering that. Obviously, it came up while we were doing the interview, and it's just, I would never presume to speak about that. I want to be an ally, right? And I think more men need to take that approach of, it's not about helping, it's about being an ally and making sure the best person is in the position, especially if that person's a woman or not. So thank you for taking the time for that.
I will share one more thing to just show you how I noticed the difference of organizational culture. So when I was moving from California to Washington, I was, getting offers from a few places, and I did interview at another organization. And at that organization, the people who interviewed me were all men. I was looking at coming into the organization as a nurse leader, as a chief nurse executive, but they really focused on, I would be there for nurses and kind of they would be running the organization.
Right.
And I contrasted that, the difference to at the University of Washington, at Harborview Medical Center, when I was being hired, I was a part of that senior leadership team. They welcomed that. They welcomed women. So I noticed the difference there. And I thought, this is an organization that I want to work for. And this is, in contrast, the other organization, I really wasn't interested. So because you have to have that culture, right? That is inclusive, that welcomes diversity.
Johnese, I'm going to caveat on that question then. We talk about culture all the time, and, I worked in pro sports too, and the military and everything else. And, Lee was a coach, and, everybody wants culture. And then, sometimes, we try to shove it down their throats, and, and usually that doesn't work. It takes time to build that culture. You have a wonderful, healthy culture in your organization. And maybe you can just describe, like, what you do to keep that focused in the right, in the right
question,
area.
JB. Yeah.
Yeah. And I always think, culture is not something you can just teach or instruct on, right? Culture has to be embedded in how everyone feels, in how they come into work and to do their job. In healthcare, I've always felt if we can connect that culture to purpose for people, it gives meaning to their work.
That's great.
So I always like to put forward a patients first culture. So here we are, we're working, with brilliant doctors, nurses, technologists, pharmacists, social workers. Everyone has to step back and look at their work through the lens of the patient, right? So that we're not a doctor first or nurse first organization. We're truly a patient first organization. And that takes people really working together as a team and saying, this is what we're going to do because it's best for our patients. And we can be so proud of that life-saving care that we deliver. And when patients are satisfied and grateful for our work. So connecting that in, we try to really bring those values in of respect for everyone, respect for our patients, for each other, our integrity, our really compassion for delivering that care, our teamwork, our excellence, and then our nature of continuous learning here in discovery. We're proud of our rankings, but we know everybody is getting better faster, right? This is also, highly relatable in sports. You can't rest 1 year on that trophy, right? Everybody is getting better. So you have to have that competitive, dynamic work that really keeps you moving forward and connecting everyone around that. And that is, it is one of the things, even during the COVID pandemic, I was a little concerned when we had so many people who had to work at home and shelter in place, a lot of our support staff, right? I wanted to make sure, how do we keep them connected every day, understanding that work that they're doing is allowing us to deliver this great care. Fortunately now we're all, kind of coming back, but it's that connection to actually seeing the work that's done and that progress, those little bits of progress every day, I think keeps staff engaged.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this podcast, what did she say? Continuous learning, continuous creativity, right? Because I think sometimes we just get stuffed in a box, Johnese, and we fail to do that. And you're continuing to get better every single day. Keep moving forward.
Well, and here's what I would encourage all of our listeners to do right now. Rewind back to the beginning of her answer and replace care or healthcare with whatever you're doing, with organization, team, business. Because what you just said, Johnese, is, in my opinion, universal across the board. If you want to create a championship organization, however you define the word championship, in your case, it's incredible patient care, people first. But I encourage you, rewind back and really listen to that again. Maybe take the medical lens off it just for a second.
Yes.
Because it has nothing to do with just medicine, right? That was an incredible definition of the word culture. I also love that you said connect culture to purpose. All right. That is usually, and JB, you know this in sports, that's usually the missing puzzle piece when people are trying to create culture. Well, we just need a good culture. Well, for what though? You have to answer that question.
That's right.
Right. So I really appreciate that answer, Johnese. It was a good. So listen, the next question is, along the road here, you've accomplished amazing things, but you're also a cancer survivor. And you've overcome hurdles in your life to become, again, one of the most influential women in your industry and in LA. So the question I have with that is, what are your coping mechanisms that you use to overcome that type of adversity or adversity in general to win the day? Because it's an amazing life that you've led thus far.
Yes. Again, I think, working throughout my career in a stressful jobs and, stress of healthcare, I always had a lot of tools in my toolbox, seeing how we help people relieve stress in healthcare. And I do try to, every day, just always think about the wonderful things, that mindfulness piece of, what we have to be grateful for in our lives, what we want to do today to make a difference, to really, stay grounded. And I will say too, working in healthcare, when you see people who have to face such adversity, it does make you more appreciative of every day, right? I mean, I think it makes you really understand that life is a gift, and we're all here to really do our best every single day. And I think working in teaching institutions, it's been so inspiring for me personally to see all of the breakthrough cures that have come through in just in the 40 years that I've been in healthcare. I mentioned I started my career and we were starting in the University of Pittsburgh to do liver transplants. Those were very risky. Many times the patients didn't survive. And here I am 40 years later at UCLA, one of the largest liver transplant centers in the country. And our patients do amazingly well. They go home very soon, they live. So you see that progress in medicine. We also have seen remarkable progress with cancer care treatments. Here at UCLA over the past decade, we've brought to market many life-saving cancer drugs. The drug Herceptin for breast cancer was discovered here at UCLA. So it makes me so proud and appreciative of the research and discovery that's going into medicine every day. You all got to see that, one of the fastest things in history, the ability to bring 3 COVID vaccines to market in a year period of time, right? So it makes me inspired about the future, seeing the great research work that's being done at great institutions like UCLA.
We would just take a minute as a culture to sit back like you did when you got there and see the good that places like UCLA and the country provide. I've always said with the pandemic, not enough people are sitting back. We're always focused on the negative. My neighbors were phenomenal to each other.
Yeah.
People took care of each other, and we adapted as a species to something that was unprecedented in our lifetime.
Yes.
If we can't see that, what are we doing?
We saw those amazing acts of kindness. I just want to say also in Los Angeles, the sports community here and the business community wrap their arms around healthcare workers. We had an outpouring of support from the Lakers, from the Dodgers, from our Bruin Athletics, meals, jerseys for our staff. I mean, it was incredible. Groceries for our lowest paid workers. They were amazing. And you did see that outpouring from the business community as well. To keep our restaurants in business, we had a lot of grateful patients buy gift cards at restaurants and then give those to our staff so that they could kind of keep the economy going here in Westwood. So You're right. There were just such acts of kindness and compassion.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to leave the impression with people that it was a wonderful time. It's just,
No.
you said this earlier, Johnny. It's like we are kind of trained now from media, social media, and news to only focus on negative, 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 negative. And the truth is, you take a step back, there was a wonderful light from humanity from this in a very dark time as well.
Incredible.
And I think we don't do ourselves any favors by not shining on people like you and your staff and your team. And yes, I think for the most part, people surrounded medical workers as thank you. Like that's all you heard at that time. And
Yeah.
anyway, I just wanted to note that because again, you can equate that to anything, sports, anything, but it's so important to realize you must try and see the full picture or you'll be miserable. You'll just be miserable. Sorry. JB,
No, you're absolutely right.
No, we force people to pick a side in these
I
things,
hate
and we
that.
shouldn't
Right.
have to. You know,
hate that.
wear a mask,
That's
not wear a
right.
mask. Get vaccine. Like we force people to
Left
take
or
a side
right.
instead of saying left
Yeah.
or right, instead of saying let's all give way together. And that's the important part. Let's all give way together. We're humans. We're Americans. You know, let's come
It's
together.
okay to disagree.
It's
That's another
okay to
one.
disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Johnese, I was just going to say, you know, your hospital system has a large reach in California. You service a broad range of people from, as you said, athletes. You do wonderful jobs for veterans like myself, to the great, you know, American workforce. This has challenges. It requires thoughtful, subordinate leaders on the ground. All throughout this, you've been talking about, you know, the staff underneath you, we, us,
Mhm.
ours. You know, I just love how you do that. So give us your take on the leaders and what makes them so effective in your system.
Yes, and again, our entire team of leaders are amazing here at UCLA Health, and I think the best piece that they do is how well they work together. You know, as a large organization, we have, as I mentioned, 35,000 employees, a lot of people taking direct patient care. But behind them are incredible support staff that allow us to do that care. People that run our supply chain, our transportation, our housekeeping and environmental services, our food and nutrition, our team in the finance office, everybody doing their job to allow the team to do the best care. And I think what we've really tried to do is recognize that whole team. Many times it is just the doctors and nurses sometimes that hear all the great accolades from patients. So we try to bring everyone into that process. We have something called our CI Care Awards that anybody can really write up an award for a coworker. They, get recognized, they get a gift card, they get a thank you note from me. So we do it to really bring that whole team in and have them feel that, connection to purpose. Additionally, we do leadership training for our leaders. So we have, prior to COVID, we were doing a leadership retreat twice a year where we're bringing everyone in so we can work and plan our goals together. We can talk about upcoming opportunities and challenges. And we have many every year in healthcare with, our changing finances, things like that. So it is a way, I think, that brings everybody's voice to the table. We're definitely not a top-down organization. I always feel that, whether I'm here or not, our team, we understand the mission, vision, and values, and our work goes forward every day. So I don't need to be at every single meeting, that it transcends, and people are really great about upholding our mission, vision, and values. But that takes, again, that work and the dialogue. And I'm thrilled that we are really back in person, having our meetings back in person and things, because I did feel a little bit on Zoom that we were, not as, really engaged as we could have been in person. So everyone's thrilled about that.
No, and I love it how that's that Dr. Greenleaf model, right? Of servant leadership, of taking the pyramid and flipping it upside down, and the higher you climb, the more people you serve.
Yes.
I love it.
We also do, and I'll say we did this all through the pandemic, we do town halls on Zoom with all of our staff, and they can put questions in the chat, they can submit questions, so that really people can have a voice in what's going on, what their thoughts are. We do rounds every day in our hospitals, talk with the team. we actually take our board members on rounds once a year so that they can also see what's happening. And, people have been really concerned about the stress of healthcare workers. So when we go on rounds, we can, help with some of the little things that make a difference in their day.
Johnese, I have to tell you, as someone married to a medical professional, this is so refreshing to hear. I mean, it is a light in a very dark room. I'm not gonna lie to you right now. So I want to thank you for your leadership just in medicine for a moment, because I haven't heard someone say this before. And I can't wait to share this episode with my wife so she can hear it too, because it's refreshing. And it sounds like UCLA has a grip on how to keep doctors and medical professions in medicine, opposed to leaving medicine. Now,
That's a work in progress,
right,
but we
right.
work really hard on that.
It's got to be, because significant changes need to be made, like any culture and like any system,
Yes.
right? Just not to make it only about medicine. I love your dedication to everyone. And again, if we're going to equate it to sports real quick, coaches, leaders, I always say this, I'll ask this question, Johnese, to a coach. Do you know what motivates every player on your team? And I get a no. I'm like, well, how are you motivating them?
Yeah.
How can you possibly motivate them? Well, and I'm like, do you think it's important to have that? This is a question for both of you. And JB, I don't know if you saw this. I kind of added this last minute on purpose. Both of you, your dedication to servant leadership is incredible to me. Johnese, I've told JB many times, being able to share a microphone with him is one of the honors of my life.
Oh, that's
I
nice.
really mean that. And now I'm here with two of you. I'm surrounded by Spizos. So it seems to run in the family. What do you think sets the family apart? Where do you think this drive came from, this understanding? And it might be a short answer, it might not. But again, I want to ask both of you that, because when you see it from more than one person, experience, life must have helped kind of craft you into this.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and I say this all the time, it was our parents. We had wonderful role models as parents. Our mother, who was a teacher and really one of the first women principals of a school system in Pennsylvania, she, during her time and when we grew up, she was, one of the few working moms, and always balanced that. We certainly never felt shortchanged. But early on, we saw the value of the work ethic. And I saw my mother's confidence, right, as a leader. And that was very inspiring to me. And for me, she really, proved that, you can have a great career, you can have a great family. And so for me, I always thought it was possible because I saw her doing that. And it was a time when really, I mean, it makes me so grateful and appreciative for groundbreaking leaders like her, because it was a time when women leaders were not supported. And JB, you might not even remember this, but I was 6 years old and I remember it. When my mother was pregnant with JB and a teacher, women were not allowed to teach after they started to show when they were pregnant.
Wow.
So my mother had to resign her job and then get rehired. And that was, something we were all concerned about, because we knew, mom loved to work and we financially needed that. So it's unfathomable for us as women leaders today to think, you have to quit your job when you're pregnant. But, this was 1966 and that's how it was. But so I think about that and I think about, had we not had these women pushing things, and then later in her career, there was a time when it was in the newspaper that the male leaders were making twice what the female leaders were making. And that had gone on for years and years and years. Finally, when she was almost ready to retire, the school district corrected that. But now, I mean, it was so egregious. These were people with like 2 and 3 years experience that were making, more than women who had taught for 30 or 40 years. But again, all of those things that were done helped pave the way. So I'm grateful to that generation of women leaders and the ones that came after it. They're the ones who really made things possible for us today.
Wow. JB, I'd love your thoughts on this too.
That was, you can't give a better answer than that. Our parents did just so much of just, teaching us, respect and humility. And I talk about with, my kids and, when my sister's kids are together, I talk about, the Spizos, we hustle, right? And it's, whether you're working in a little sub shop or, you're a VP for a professional sports team, you give it your all, you're a superstar in the role asked of you. And I think that's just so important to do that and bring that humility. And that's what I took into the military and kind of, refined it there a bit with the leadership training. That confidence is a big piece because, it comes from digging in and doing hard work. If you notice early in this podcast, Johnny said while she was at whatever position, she became great at it. So you become that confident at it. Right. And I think a lot of people climb without even really crafting their skill at that level for that thing. But I think that's very, very important. And the women, both my sisters, my mom, I looked at them as, they were the beacon. So I was just trying to keep up as the youngest.
No.
So, yeah.
Well, and our father too is a military veteran. His whole focus was giving back to the community, supporting others. So as young children, we were always volunteering, doing community service.
Right.
So it was, we had that balance too of, the understanding that, we are fortunate, right, that we have an education, we can do this. And now it's really on us to use that education to give back to the community too.
Incredible answers from both of you. Just observations from what you said. I was blessed with two wonderful parents, my father, Ed, my mother, Evelyn, who was a midwife.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, not everybody's blessed with, great parents or two parents and different situations bring that. But what is amazing to me, and this is what I took from what you said, and I feel like I share this with both of you. Our parents collectively never suppressed the ability to dream. And I see a lot of parents do that. You'll never make it. There's no point in trying. And, my father had this quote of, you don't have to support their dream, but you have to support the right to have a dream.
That's really a good quote.
I've lived by that.
Yeah.
And I never want to take away a young athlete's or my kids or anybody's right to dream. And I think parents and coaches need to hear that because we do that a lot because of maybe a negative persona that we talked about earlier. The other half of that is your work ethic. And JB, you mentioned that, and Johnese, you obviously have shown that throughout the interview. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Do it well, master it. I said this to JB on another episode. JB always says we climb, we climb. and I meditate on things like that sometimes. And I told him this, I realized that when he says that, it's not about getting to the peak. It's about enjoying the climb, right? The peak is just a moment, but guess what? There's going to be another peak, right? So you have to enjoy the mountain you're on. JB, you taught me that without even teaching me that, which is, this is why I love sharing a microphone with you. Just an incredible answer, guys. And again, for the coaches out there, and this is something that I do as a coach, and JB and Johnese, I know you do it too, is that when I'm coaching a team, even if I'm paid to win, remember, youth sports, it's about development at the pro level. It's about winning. But I always, and this goes back to what you said, Johnese, about like purpose, right? I always keep in mind, I'm crafting a human being here that's going to do something beyond the game.
That's right.
Right. And a lot of people go, that's a waste of time. You just need to win. I said, that's part of the winning. All right. And they'll be a better athlete. They'll be a better person. They'll be a better experience if you focus on that too. I encourage coaches, and again, I'm not trying to be lectury here, so please don't take it that way. I encourage coaches to take a step back. Are you helping your athletes become better people?
Best version of themselves.
So important.
You want maximum performance?
Right.
That's got to be part of it, or you're not going to get it.
That is so important. And that translates to every piece of work, right? I mean, It is all about that development. Absolutely.
And again, in your hospital system, it's, and I say this all the time, the janitor has a role, right? I always tell that JFK story, right? I don't know if you heard this one. Yeah. About JFK was at NASA and he asked the janitor, what are you doing? He goes, oh, I'm working to put a man on the moon, right? It's like,
that's exactly what we want everyone to think.
Right. Well, Johnese, you're a complete inspiration to me. I know you are to JB as well. I'm jealous he's had more time with you. To be honest with you. Final question for me before I close this is, we said it throughout the episode. Our channel is all about mental fitness. mental health. You want to take a stab at just how do you define mental fitness, or what do you do? We talked about this a little bit on a daily level of the importance of that to move forward.
Yeah, for me personally, I think, always reflecting on the day's activities, looking at things that either were moments of, joy or moments of stress, and kind of how do you balance that and take that all in. I also think, for me personally, a lot of things that I do, I like to walk. And fortunately, we're here in this beautiful city on this beautiful campus. And it allows me to kind of clear my head and think as I'm walking, and also getting some physical fitness in with that mental fitness. I think people have to really do what works for them. It's interesting because during the pandemic, we rolled out a lot of wellness and mental health support for our staff. So we had yoga, meditation, all these different things, but we didn't force anyone to do anything that didn't feel right for them. So people have to kind of find that comfort zone. If they want to talk with someone, we're here. But if you want to process it a different way, we're there. So I do think you have to be dynamic and flexible. It's just like you said, you can't say, here's an app. Many people won't do that. That only works for a subset. And then again, I think looking at how we have really the tools also to help people through those most difficult times. And a lot of times that is access to really in-person counseling and services.
Wonderful answer. And I got to tell you,
and as you mentioned, I'll say, because we work with the sports teams on the medical care. It's really great to see the national sports teams now requiring the mental health piece in on that.
Absolutely.
Too.
Right.
Because that impacts a lot of their medical ability to perform.
Well, it creates better athletes too. That's the other, I would say you want to convince a coach, just show them the benefits. I mean, the benefits are if your athletes are, this is everything, not just sports. If they're mentally strong, they're going to have a better output. And
that's right.
One note on what you just said that really stuck out to me. You talked about everyone experiences it differently. Again, the mental fitness to physical fitness kind of comparison. We don't go to the gym and all lift the exact same weight, the exact same way, we do it differently. Everybody finds their physical fitness differently. I walk too, right? I don't go to the gym. I have other ways of doing it. Mental fitness is the same thing. You have to find what works for you, and it might change over time, right? So
absolutely.
Johnese, I gotta thank you for trusting us with this time today. This has been fantastic.
Wonderful.
My pleasure.
Yeah, JB, any closing comments before I close this out?
No, I'm just, Johnese, thank you. You've been an inspiration to me my entire life. I always looked at you as a beacon. I remember even tough times, even when I was going through, special operations training, I'd be like, what would Johnese tell me? She'd tell me, keep going. You're going to make it.
Well, thank you both for all that you do. And also, it's so important to get these messages out there. And so thank you both for sharing these little pearls of wisdoms and tips. It really helps people. And, it's probably something that we need more of, but I'm sure it's greatly appreciated by your viewers.
No, thank you so much. That is our goal. And I'll say this before I close, JB says, Rangers lead the way. It's older siblings lead the way a lot of the time. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
I say that about my big brother too. So that's going to do it for this episode of Win Championship Trades for Life. Again, it's powered by Pivotal Moments. You can learn more about our organization at pivotalmomentsmedia.com and our channel Grit. We have a lot, as Johnny said, inspirational, entertaining, and educational content. So for Johnese Spisso and JB Spisso, I'm Lee Elias. Thanks so much for joining us. Keep an eye out for more episodes soon, wherever podcasts can be heard. Thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next episode of Win. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks so much for listening to this edition of Win Championship Trades for Life. If you like what you heard, go ahead and hit that subscribe button or that like button wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, social media network, or our website, pivotalmomentsmedia.com. And remember, Win is part of Grit, a Pivotal Moments Media channel, which is working to break the stigma surrounding mental fitness in sports. Again, visit pivotalmomentsmedia.com for more episodes, content, and education on how we can tackle that challenge together. Keep climbing, and we'll see you on the next episode.